Hey everyone, this is Teo. In today's review, I'm going to review this portable 4K USB monitor from Desklab. Now this video is going to be long because it's going to be very detailed. If you want to save time, just check out the text review that I have already written. The link is in the video description below. So this review will be from the perspective of a visual content creator, someone who does digital illustration, graphic design, edits photos and videos almost on a daily basis. Before I start the review, let me just say that this is actually a review unit that was sent to me by the company. I don't have to return this unit, but this is not a sponsored review in the sense that I do not get paid for this review. First thing you need to know is this product actually came out from a Kickstarter campaign which was successfully funded a few months ago. And as with any crowdfunding campaigns, there is an element of risk. So I was interested to review this product because it was said to have good color accuracy. So I was interested to find out how good are the colors and whether or not this monitor is suitable for creative professionals. This was the box that came with the monitor. I have already unboxed everything, so let me show you the things included. All these were packed very securely inside the box. Let me show you the cables first. USB-C to C, micro HDMI to full-size HDMI, USB-C wall charger, and that's the double flat pin. I'm not sure if you are able to choose the type of pins, but even if you cannot, you can just get an adapter for your country. User manual. I'll show you the settings you can change later on. So this is the Desklab 15.6-inch external monitor. There is a sticker here that tells you to remove the protective film that's on the display before using this. Now this monitor is available in 4K as well as 1080p. At the time of this review, they have some pre-order promotion going on. So the 4K model is selling for US $399 and the 1080p model is $299. The pre-order promotion will end at the end of July 2020, if I'm not wrong. This is their website, which I will link in the video description below. I'm not sure what the price will be after the pre-order. Alright, let's remove this plastic protective film. Oh, it's not easy to remove. Alright, so it seems like I have to use my fingernails instead. As you can see, this is very reflective, as with all glossy displays. So this is going to be a fingerprint magnet, like all glossy displays. And this is a touch display, so fingerprints will be unavoidable. Build quality is quite solid, in fact more solid than I expected. The bezels, not very obvious right now, but are quite thin on the sides and the top. Bottom here, it's a bit thicker. Two rubber feet at the bottom. The holes for the speakers are here in the middle. Design on the back, it's very clean except for the logo and branding. And you can see some fingerprint smudges already. Let's take a look at the ports here. Base of the display is actually thicker compared to the top. I'm not exactly sure how thin this is, but it's thinner compared to my fingernail. So this is micro USB. We have two USB Type-C and this is mini HDMI. On the other side, we have the power button, and this is a toggle for the OSD manual. You can also push in, and this is 3.5mm audio jack. You may be wondering, how does this monitor stand? It cannot stand because there is no stand built into the monitor, so you may have to get the protective cover and stand that's sold separately. At the time of this video, this is US $50 and it comes with all this double side tape that you have to remove and stick to the back of the monitor. The texture is nice. It's some rubberized canvas. I think it's probably some PU leather. On the insides, the texture here is finer. Alright, let me just stick this to the back first. So since this is double side tape, once it's stuck to the back, it's going to be difficult to remove. Even with the protective case, this monitor still looks very slim. In fact, this part here is still thinner compared to the base of the monitor. There's a fold here, a line here, so you can flip the case to the other side, and that fold will allow you to basically prop up the monitor. So that's the protective case that also doubles as a stand. If you don't want to get this, then you have to get some sort of stand to prop up the display, and this is my laptop stand, which as you can see it's only fixed at one angle. So if you want to be watching movies, for example, you will need some sort of stand that actually can prop up this display to almost vertical. Otherwise it's going to look and feel a bit weird watching like this. So if you want to bring this monitor around with you easily, perhaps getting a protective case like this may be a good idea, because it looks like it does provide sufficient protection except for the sides which are exposed. I have just connected the Desklab monitor to the Microsoft Surface Book 3, and this is now running at 4K resolution, 60 Hz. I'm using just one single USB-C cable, and the laptop was able to power the external display just from the USB port. However, not all laptops or tablets may provide enough power through the USB port, so in case it doesn't power on, you do need to plug in an external power source. So this is how it looks when it's powered on. You can see the bezels, they are quite thin. The design looks very clean and simple. I have already color calibrated this display, and I measured up to 99% sRGB, 79% Adobe RGB, so color accuracy is quite good, definitely suitable for photo editing. The brightness, I measured a maximum of 110 nits, which is not that bright but sufficient for indoor use. Viewing angles are alright. The colors, they don't shift much when the monitor is viewed at different angles. The only thing that's distracting is actually the reflection. There is no gap between the surface and the LCD beneath. Alright, let me show you what you can do with the OSD menu. All the ports on this monitor are located on the right side, so if you have a laptop that has USB-C or HDMI on the left side, you can do a more direct connection. Otherwise, you may have to do this, which is, I guess, alright. The USB-C cable that's provided is definitely long enough to go around the back. So having an external monitor, it's really very useful, because in this case here, for example, when I am writing my text review, I can actually just refer to my reference, my source on the side here. I don't have to tap between windows. I can just refer to it, so it saves time, it's more productive. And as you can see, this is a touch display, so the finger gestures, they still work. You can zoom in and out, rotate. This display does not work well with rubber tip styluses like this, so when I tap on the display to scroll, sometimes there's this split-second lag before the display recognizes that there is a stylus. This is what will happen when you try to write. And all these are actually a series of individual dots and strokes, because when I undo, I have to undo several times. But when I use my finger, it's alright. So what is this monitor good for? Well, external monitors are good for a lot of purposes. For this particular model, since it has good color accuracy, you can actually use it to edit photos, which is really cool. And since this is a 4K display, you can actually see a lot of details. However, do note that you may need to have a powerful graphics card in order to drive this display. If you are using dual screens like a laptop and this display, then you may need an even more powerful graphics card. So here, when I try to zoom in and out, I can feel the I cannot say that this is lag. This is more like input lag. So the response, it's not that fluid, even though this is 60 Hertz, which is a very typical refresh rate for monitors. So let me try and disable that display. So now I'm running this as the only display. Let's try and scroll again and zoom in and out and see if it's more responsive. So it does feel like it's more responsive. Okay, so when it comes to editing photos on this display, even though it's a touch display, earlier on I mentioned that you cannot use a stylus because it doesn't work well. So if you want to use your fingers, well, some of these buttons, they are a bit small. So I would still prefer to use a mouse and cursor to work with this rather than using touch, even though you can use touch. This display obviously can be used for video editing as well, and it's a 4K display, so you will be able to watch your 4K videos at 1:1 resolution. You will be able to see all those details. And because the aspect ratio is 16:9, there will be no black bars at the top and bottom. So this is a 4K video that I'm currently playing. And this is with my camera zooming in with the macro lens. Can you see any pixelation? I mean, 4K resolution on 15.6-inch display, you are not going to be able to see the individual pixels. With 1080p resolution, you will be able to see some pixelation with the fonts and icons and user interface even when seated one arm's length away. The OSD menu is easy to navigate. To get out of the menu, just press the power button. To enter, just press the toggle button. And you can scroll up and down very easily. So here you can change the brightness, contrast, the eco mode, which is different standard screen modes. I have it at standard. This is dynamic contrast ratio. Let me go here. So here you can adjust color temperature, hue, colors, saturation, blue light. There is also FreeSync. If I'm not wrong, this is just 60 Hertz. This is just a 60 Hertz display. So PCM is the color profile. I have set it to Adobe RGB, and when I calibrated this Adobe RGB profile, I measured 97% sRGB, but when I set it to user, I managed to calibrate it at 99% sRGB. There are speakers built in, and you can adjust the volume here, which is of course very inconvenient because you have to go into the menu to adjust. If you're using Windows, you can actually adjust the volume using Windows Control, using Windows shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. But if you're using Mac OS, then you have to well, find some way to adjust the audio because you can't do it with the keyboard shortcuts. And here we have auto select for the different video input. I'll just set it as auto select because it will detect the cable automatically. And here at the bottom you can see it's running at 4K 60 Hertz, and this is the USB Type-C port. So the speakers are downward facing, so they will bounce off the table and towards you. And the speakers, they are located just right here in the center. These are stereo speakers, but because they are located in the center, you will not get the full stereo effect. But audio quality is surprisingly better, like much better than I expected. I don't game much, so I cannot say too much about gaming, but this is 4K display, so if you want to do 4K gaming, you will need a pretty good graphics card, unless you want to drop down to 1080p. And this display is more suitable for console gaming because it tops out at 60 Hertz. If you can play at 4K, I'm very sure you will enjoy the extra details. And now let's talk about Mac OS support. So I've just connected this to my 2013 Mac Pro desktop, and it's able to run this display at 4K, but only at 30 Hertz. I've also connected this to my MacBook Pro from 2015, and With that laptop, it was only able to run this at 1440p, but at 60 Hz. So you may need to have a more recent Mac if you want to run this at 4K 60 Hz. These are the various resolution and scaling options in macOS system preferences. So currently I have it set to this scaling option that shows the user interface at 1080p. You can also have this option to show 1:1 resolution, in which case the user interface will be as shown in this video. It will be really tiny on this 15.6-inch display. The 1080p scaling option is great because it's going to scale the user interface elements like the palettes, the toolbars, the menus to 1080p sizes, but it will retain the 4K sharpness. So if you actually look at the fonts here, you will not be able to see any pixelation. So it's just the user interface elements that have been enlarged. And when it comes to working with files, let me show you this particular file that I have. This is actually a photo that has a resolution that's larger compared to 4K. So you can see this 4K display is not able to fit this photo completely because this photo is actually larger than the maximum resolution on this display, which is great because what this means is your 4K files will still be displayed as actual 4K files, and this only applies for the 1080p scaling as well as for the actual 4K scaling. If you think the user interface is too big and you want to see more of your work, more of your canvas, you can choose this option here for 1440p scaling. With the 1440p scaling option, this is the 4K file that you will see, and this is now displayed at 100%. But in actual reality, if this is 1:1, this photo would be bigger and outside the frame of this display. But as you can see, this is not true 4K. It's sharp, but it's not true 1:1 4K. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's going to matter to you because even at this 1440p scaling, this photo still looks very sharp. I'm using the mini HDMI port to connect to my Mac Pro, and since this doesn't provide power, I have to use the USB port of my Mac Pro to provide power for the display. Otherwise, this display will not power on. I'm using macOS 10.14. Touch features are limited. I can click things, but I cannot zoom in and out. I cannot pan. So it's just very basic touch and click. If you want to, you can actually rotate the monitor and rotate your desktop, but you cannot do the rotation with the OSD menu because there's no option to do that. You have to do it with your computer's operating system. And note that the cables are coming out from the top, and sometimes it may hit the power button because the power button is right there at the bottom, and you need to find some way to stabilize this setup because the stand behind, let's just say that it's not the base, it's not firm because it can wobble very easily. See the accidental press? You definitely don't want this to be falling forward. As soon as I said that, the display actually toppled backwards and it bent this cable. So now my cable is bent, but at least it still works. So if you have this display in vertical orientation, make sure you stabilize it properly. Touch support on macOS, it's really very limited. So now I have connected my iPad Pro to the Desklab monitor. I tried using the USB-C, C to C, but for some reason it doesn't work. So I'm using this adapter, which is C to HDMI, and I'm using the mini HDMI, and now it works. And touch features do not work on iOS, so the touch screen will not work on iPads or on iPhones. I have just connected my Samsung tablet to the monitor using the USB-C cable. Now that USB port there, it does not provide enough power to power the monitor, so I have to use external power. So right now it's running in Samsung Dex mode, which is the desktop mode, and it's running at 4K 60 Hz. So everything looks very sharp. The colors, they look alright to me. Not all Android phones and tablets can output video signal, and not all Android devices have the desktop mode. So with Samsung selected devices, they have this Samsung Dex desktop mode, which is really cool. It means that for selected phones, you can actually bring your small phone with this monitor and a keyboard, and you have a pretty cool portable computing setup. And touch works with Android as well. So this is the web browser from Samsung. You can see it's very responsive. I can scroll very easily. Extremely responsive. This is the note-taking app that I showed you earlier. So again, with fingers, I can draw or write easily. But with this stylus, this is actually a different stylus compared to the earlier one. This uses a disc tip and again, broken stroke. So if you want to take notes, well, you have to be using your fingers. Otherwise, just type your notes in. If you play Android games, you can enjoy your game on this big screen and use your phone as a controller. Unfortunately, I don't play any Android games, so I cannot show you. Right, to conclude, let me just go through the things I like and dislike. I like the design. Now this is actually a very typical portable monitor type of design. Having said that, it does look good. The bezels are thin. The monitor itself, it's very thin and very portable, so it's very easy to bring this around to anywhere where you want to use it. And the colors are actually good. Like I measured 97 to 99% sRGB, so if you want to, you can actually use this to edit photos. It has a good selection of ports. The audio quality better than I expected, even though it's not like true stereo, but it's not true stereo, if you know what I mean. The OSD menus, very easy to navigate, and I like that with certain laptops or tablets that provide enough power through the USB port, you can just use that single cable to power this display, and everything will work, including touch. But touch only works with Windows and Android, not on Mac OS, where touch support is very limited, and definitely touch does not work on iOS and iPads and iPhones. Things I dislike, the brightness could be better, and because the brightness is not like that high, and this screen it's very glossy and reflective, so the brightness was not able to like shine through the reflection, so the reflections are a bit distracting. And when connecting this display to another computer, the brightness will go back to its default setting, which is 3 out of 10. So for example, now I'm connected to the laptop. If I take this out and connect to another computer, the brightness will drop. I have to go in and adjust the brightness again. But if you are just using this with a single computer and you restart your computer, then yes, it's going to remember the brightness. And the 2-in-1 protective case and stand, that's not included. It's sold separately for US $50 on top of the price of the monitor. The 4K monitor is US $399. 1080p is $299. So to me, that pricing, it's a bit pricey, especially when you compare it to like competitors. But I mean, I've already shown you the features. You can decide whether or not this is value for money. And the last thing I want to talk about is this is a Kickstarter product. As with any crowdfunding campaign, there is an element of risk. So this is their Kickstarter page with over 1,400 comments. So you can head over to read some of the comments and also get an idea of the type of service you can expect. Many of them, they are talking about the shipping, which is slow or delayed, but currently it's the pandemic, so shipping is going to be slower than usual. I tried to ship something from Singapore to USA and it took 1 to 2 months. So yeah, shipping is going to be slow. I had to mention the Kickstarter thing because I do get products from crowdfunding campaigns to review before the pre-orders, and sometimes some backers, they will come to my videos to post comments telling me about the actual situation, about their experience with backing certain products that I feature on my YouTube channel. So it would be a disservice for me not to mention that. Alright, so that's all for this video. I hope it's helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and if you have backed this product, you can let me know and let others know about your experience in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye!